So as a quick preface, I was raised by a very strange, crazy lady who told me that fantasy and sci-fi comic books, among a lot of other things, might have had something to do why I was an 18-year-old dating a 26-year-old. So the second she was out of my life, I dove headfirst into all of it, and maybe got a little obsessive. At some point, my boyfriend, at the time, ended up telling me that a friend of his wanted to DM a short beginner campaign for new players. And I was all in, but had no idea how to proceed. The players were myself, my ex, and the DM, and one other player who I don't remember much of, but I do remember that he played a homebrewish monk. The DM worked very closely with me on my character, which was an elf cleric of a homebrew religion, and her name was Asha, and she was very quiet, shy, and nun-like with immense devotion to her homebrew goddess. He had helped me make a low-maintenance RP character who also had very strong ties to the lore, the world, and the planned plot. It was great for my personality, and honestly a very nice way to slowly wade into the waters of D&D, especially those of RP. And the DM told me in private that I was going to need a MacGuffin, as Asha's goddess would commune with her through dreams and visions, but I would still have a final say on what to share with the party, both in and out of game. The basic plot was that a sect of Asha's religion was becoming a cult and warping the religion, so Asha's goddess sent her on a mission to squash the heretics. My ex-BF rolled a tiefling warlock, who he named after his own gamertag. We're going to call him 7. So Asha and the monk met up and had the same goal. It turns out that the cult had taken over the monk's temple and killed his best friend. Asha didn't trust strangers who were not part of her religion, but her goddess told her to work with the monk, so it was fine. And then we met 7. Asha instantly hated him. He was a warlock, and she's a religious fanatic. The monk convinced Asha to let the warlock join us, as he had some secret mission from his patron that at least somewhat aligns with Asha and the monks. She didn't like it, but she trusted the monk because her goddess said she could. 7 immediately started to hit on Asha. She rejected awkwardly, both in and out of game, but it wasn't too bad. It kind of made sense that an evil warlock would get a kick out of making the goody two-shoes feel uncomfortable. We had a few fun fights, and we met an NPC that Asha really liked, and got a great vibe off of. But we couldn't convince them to join us because I failed the charisma checks. And as she was expressing this affection to the NPC, 7 got mad and tried to steal from him in his own home. Asha got mad and called him out. And instead of dropping the random thing he stole, 7 decided to attack the NPC. So the guards got called, and because the DM went easy on us, the guards kicked us out of the city rather than TPKing us. And this is when 7 kicked it up. He began making much harder, stronger moves on Asha, and out of character, I was beginning to feel really uncomfortable. I was new to RP, and at the time, I was also very uncomfortable with PDA, so this wasn't great for me. We made camp after a rough goblin encounter, and 7 immediately said that he wanted to sneak into my tent. The DM paused and asked why.
I'm going to screw her. Asha?
I quietly and uncomfortably responded. Asha wouldn't do that.
That's a no, 7. So monk. I sneak in then.
The DM takes a long pause.
To talk with her? No, to sleep with her.
The DM took a longer pause.
Actually, Asha has a vow of celibacy. Sorry, I almost forgot. So what? My character doesn't care about that. So you're just going to force yourself on her? If I have to.
He was grinning as he said this, and the monk looked disgusted and shocked. The DM, just confused. I was starting to feel myself shake and go into a panic attack, and I couldn't say anything. I was just focused on trying to breathe.
I'm not allowing that.
7 doesn't do that. Just no. He paused for a long time, took off his glasses, and rubbed his face. Then he sighed and said,
You know what, guys? I've got a headache. Let's end this session early.
As we packed up, The DM said he had a new dream for Asha, and it was the norm for us to discuss those in private, away from the monk and my ex. So we moved to a different room, and the DM gave me his wife's cell phone number and said to please call her if I ever feel unsafe. He told me that I have a lot of friends who care about me, and that I don't need to put up with anyone mistreating me. When we got into the car, my ex started ranting about the monk, saying that when they were alone, the monk had made a comment about how gross he had been, and that the ex had said his character was just as entitled to Asha's body as he was to mine. The DM never invited us to another session, though he and his wife did call me a few times after to check on me, something which sent my ex into rage. And looking back on it, I can see that this game was the first time anyone had put to words what was happening in real time to me. And hearing it from an older man really began to fit pieces together in my head how unhealthy that relationship was. And yes, the things he tried to do to my character were similar things that he did to me. It took a D&D campaign to make me and his friends realize how nasty he actually was. This was 6 or 7 years ago, but I've been thinking about this lately again because a friend of mine had encouraged me to try out D&D again. This time, with him as DM and a male character inspired by a cross of Dick Grayson and a character from the Feist novels. Hopefully, the second time will be the charm. P.S. I apologize that most of the story is out of character, but I only realized recently that this was when that horrible relationship started to crumble, and I'm only recently rediscovering my interest in TTRPGs. So the events have linked in my head, and I thought it would be cathartic to share. And to anyone who cares, I'm a long time out of that relationship, and in a healthy one with a man my own age. One with a lot more listening, respect, and care. Thank you for reading. Well guys, I can't stress enough that if you're in an unhealthy relationship, you should really start looking for avenues on how to get out of that relationship. Some of them might be hard to get out of because of your living situation, and you might be dependent on them, but if you're in a bad situation, get out and fix it. But with that, not very happy story, that's the end of the video, and I hope you have a good one.